Maneater gets the Platinum treatment for the PS5 and is a test subject to streamlining the reviews because I find myself waffling a bit and they're just a bit too long and I just can't keep up trying to do these videos. So back to the game itself. This is an old school arcade-esque game from basically the PS2, PS3 in terms of style, and it's an open RPG open world that sadly finds itself in shallow waters rather than deep content, which is a shame. At its core it is a fun game, but after the concept it is fairly lazy and they've kind of neglected the rest of it. So I'm going to keep the fax version as it is. This was earned on the 16th of January 2021, and what you see is from the PS5 version. It's single player only. It has 33 trophies, 1 platinum, 6 gold, 6 silver and 20 bronze. It takes up 10.71 gigabytes of storage. Depending on your skill, this will take between 10 and 15 hours on average to beat, and because of how short it is a 1 in the score of platinum difficulty.
The Emperor of the Deep, the Great White.
So, I'm going to kind of cut this down to pros and cons. So on gameplay, I give this a score of 1. The pros of this is it's a pick up and play nature, is infectious at the beginning. Its controls just about make it work. The humour is just the right side of being funny, and the levelling up is steady and rewarding. But sadly, the cons outweigh it. This game will give you finger fatigue. It is a horrible button bashing at times, and where you sometimes like to be methodical, it just descends into chaos, as you can see in the video in the background. It was just button mashing, and that can get knackering when it is oftenly happening on the gameplay. Sadly, after a few hours, it is repetitive gameplay, the same old missions, and the same old kind of enemies and what you're dealing with. They just get a little bit stronger. The areas get quite bland. The background's quite nice, but the areas in itself and what you're fighting is very bland. You've got some non-enemies like turtles who fly about and just don't do much, and then you've got mackerel and other things that give you a bit of a fight, but when you overlevel, they all become just an irritant rather than an interesting challenge. The AI is also quite basic and at times boring, meaning fights can literally be bashed through by over-leveling, which is an irritation. And the camera can be a real pain in the arse and really cause some real problems as you're trying to fight and you're trying to figure out where the hell this person is or the crocodile you're fighting. And it just becomes more of an annoyance rather than helping you enjoy the gameplay.
But mankind is ultimately impotent to stop Mother Nature's plans. The Great White is often referred to as the King of the Ocean, which gives it a skewed understanding.
Story gets a 1. The pros is that it's got a fairly good story idea of revenge. I also like the viewpoint of the main villain, giving it a nice touch and the balance of the gameplay. Also, having the rank of best hunters is a good idea in principle, and also with the apex predators giving some variety. But sadly, with the cons, the main lead hunter has an angle, but it's not really bothered about in context of the apex predators or the human ones, which sadly makes them bland and just boring. Due to the nature of being open world, the story can get lost with overdevelopment, and then suddenly you get quite a bit of story at one go, and then too much getting spread over a long time as you try and do all these other little missions. So much more could be done beyond the main story, keeping it engaging, but there's just nothing there that keeps you engaged with little side stories or little kind of rivalries or anything like that, sadly. And often the missions just feel like time fillers. Just eat this amount of enemies, destroy this, eat another set of enemies, and it just really becomes to be stretched out, and sadly you kind of suspect that they don't really know what they were going to do with this after they had this great idea.
Oh.
Platinum is a 1.5. It's a nice and easy, straightforward list of trophies. You like to know that there is nothing missable here, and overleveling makes this game really easy. Just a tad little grind there. There is no difficulty trophies, you literally just start the game and just play, and when you upgrade your radar ping, finding all the collectibles is really easy. So there's nothing difficult to obtain here. The cons though is grabbing some of the out of water license plate collectibles is really irritating and daft. It's a shark in water, and some of the kind of jumps they want you to make can be really irritating, and you have to be fully leveled up to grab them.
Over the course of a bull shark's
Sadly,
life,
there is
the village has
collectibles,
quite a
and there
broad
is a good
assortment of flashy
few of them.
gadgets.
There's license plates, there's food boxes, there's landmarks. There's just so much to go and find, and sadly getting a hunter infamy can be a real chore to get to the final and become the most infamous shark all against the hunters.
Sea sponges' demand for pineapple homes has sparked massive deforestation throughout Costa Rica. But being brainless, sponges rarely weigh the consequences of their buying decisions. This instantized protein makes a great between-meal supplement, giving the shark the energy she needs to put on serious battles.
Music is a 1. The pros are, it's a game that's really a giant shark in a swamp and in the ocean. There's not really much you can do with the music, so it's more reliant on its actions with the sound effects, and sadly it's a bit hit and miss. There is some nice ambience when you're in the main ocean from the whales and stuff like that, but you don't really get much, and thankfully the sound effects do connect with your actions, giving you a sense of your actions having a bit of meat to them. But apart from that, I mean, you get in the swamp, the redneck yokel twangs of the banjo, and it's all just kind of boring. For the cons, the voiceover commentary gets really annoying. It just sounds like Jerry from Rick and Morty, and I can't escape that, and he's always got something to say, and sometimes it's irritating, and sometimes it's repetitive. And the sound effects get annoying. They're a bit over the top and a bit overly loud, ruining the sense of the gameplay. And the radar ping, you need it a lot, and it can just be very irritating halfway through the game.
If a group of consenting adults wants to perform cryptic rites to shadow forth the prophecy of the great old ones, who am I to judge? The Needle-Tooth Nightmare, the Barracuda.
Lastly, graphics, which gets a 1. The pros here is that it sacrifices its graphics for the gameplay. It tries to make it as smooth and more arcadey as it can, and it kind of works at times, and it doesn't at others. But it doesn't matter when it does work. It has nice background vistas, and the cartoonish character imagery just about works for the game, but at the same time it could have been better. The in-game map and menus are all solid and smooth, and the upgrades look nice on the shark, so graphically it's a mixed bag. But on the cons, apart from some of the vistas, nothing really stands out in the game. Humans are quite bland in their movements, and so with the boats, and it's just a bit kind of jarring and odd. The game looks at times like it's from a PS3 era. It looks very fugly and kind of rough around the edges. There's very little interesting in details within the game map unless you get the collectible kind of signpost, which you'll see in the video, which then gives you kind of a highlight of something that was in the map. But overall, when you swim past it, you wouldn't really notice unless you had the collectibles, which kind of doesn't really kind of work for when you just want to kind of explore and notice these things on your own. Instead, you're having to be pointed at all these cool things that could be hidden in the game, and the odd joke.
Even after the creation of a killer clown task force, clown-related homicide still remains a problem in Port Clovis.
Ultimately, 5.5 is a fair reflection on a game that has a good idea, manages to turn it into something playable, but doesn't nurture and mould it into something far greater. The ocean is a sandbox of ideas and variety rarely explored by games, and the unique take on this world is sadly ignored and neglected halfway through. Hopefully a sequel will do the game justice, and right the wrongs of what has so much potential. A half-baked game that does the job of fun in small bursts, but is bloated time filler beyond that.
I suppose there's a lesson to be gleaned here.
I hope you liked the new review. Give me a like, subscribe and feedback. If you need any help about any of the trophies, just let me know.